Gabriel and I have been dating for about 10 months now. We met through work, although on different teams originally, and about 6 months ago he transferred to my team. Not because I am on it. The work just aligns more with his interests versus the team he was on before. We have a coworker, Ray, who I have worked with on this team for years and am vaguely work friends with, although I honestly think he is a pretty mediocre employee overall. Still, this team was just me and Ray for most of the past few years. So we have built a pretty good rapport, and he is someone I occasionally go to for help and advice, since he has been in the industry about a decade longer than I have. A few months ago, during a one-on-one meeting, Ray mentioned that he was interviewing for other jobs, but asked me to keep that under wraps. I did not think too much of it, because window shopping like that is not terribly uncommon in our industry, and it is not a big secret that Ray is not exactly the star performer on our team anyway. It made sense that he would be looking for something else. Over the coming months, he would occasionally mention something about one interview or another in private. But again, I did not think about it too much. Well, today Ray announced that he had accepted another offer and gave his 2 weeks' notice. Gabriel was extremely angry because he had just signed on to do a project where he would be paired up with Ray, and Ray had reassured him and our boss that he would do his half of the tasks and then quit just days later. Gabriel remarked that I did not seem very surprised about the news, and I was honest and admitted that I had known Ray was kind of looking around, but had not realized he was this serious about it. Gabriel completely flew off the handle and started yelling about how I had betrayed him by not telling him that Ray was leaving, that I am a horrible person, that I have probably lied to him about all kinds of other things too, that he is sure I must have slept with Ray before, all kinds of stuff. I tried to explain my side, which is that I feel it is important to keep a separation of the personal versus professional sides of the relationship when dating someone you work closely with, and that I did not want to get a reputation as the office gossip because I had shared something a coworker had told me in confidence. I agreed with him that it was incredibly bad form for Ray to handle the situation the way he did, but that I was put in an awkward situation and just tried my best to be as fair as I could under the circumstances. But he was having none of it and just kept yelling, then eventually stormed off and slammed the door in my face. We were at his apartment at the time, so I gathered my stuff and came home. Now, for an update. I have a minor surgery tomorrow that he was supposed to drive me to and pick me up from, but I called a friend to ask her to do it instead because he is completely ignoring me. How should I move forward here? I do not know how to convince him that I am not a liar, and I feel like he is never going to forgive me for this or let me live it down. I genuinely thought I was doing the right thing when put between a rock and a hard place, but now I am questioning myself and wondering how to even begin to go about repairing this situation. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your boyfriend sounds like he has the emotional maturity of a high schooler. Take a look at other 30-year-old men in loving, committed relationships around you and compare their reactions and behavior to your boyfriend's, and maybe you'll see your guy is still a child emotionally. All the other commenters are right. Screaming, melting down, and stonewalling are not appropriate reactions to getting any kind of mildly upsetting news, and especially not over something this small. Comment 2. Do you want to keep dating a man who goes crazy, has a tantrum, and accuses you of cheating because he might have to do extra work? Your boyfriend is an employee, not the owner of the business. Slavery is illegal. Ray has every right to live his life as he sees fit and work where he wants to. Your boyfriend is beyond delusional in thinking some random coworker should make his life choices based on what your boyfriend wants. You would be making a mistake staying with your boyfriend. Now, for the update. A couple weeks have passed since the fight with Gabriel. Honestly, they felt like the longest 2 weeks ever. I had a minor surgery scheduled, and since Gabriel was still giving me the silent treatment, I had to ask my friend Rachel to take me to the hospital. Rachel's been a lifesaver. No joke. She made sure I was settled in before the procedure and just stayed positive, which I really needed at the time. I kept expecting Gabriel to reach out or something, but he didn't. Not a word. After the surgery, I spent the first week just focusing on healing and trying to keep busy. I binge-watched a bunch of shows, got caught up on reading, and just didn't think about life for a bit. I figured he would reach out at some point, but maybe I was just fooling myself. I didn't hear from him until a week later when I got a text from him asking how the surgery went. It felt so distant, like he was texting someone he barely knew. I replied and told him that the surgery was successful and I was recovering well. He just responded with a brief, "glad to hear," and then went silent again. Like, seriously? That's it? I was feeling really down, so I decided to go to a mutual friend's birthday party to distract myself. When I got there, I was surprised to see Ray, the guy from my work that had been leaving. We ended up chatting, and he seemed really nice and understanding. Ray mentioned that Gabriel had been really distant since he left the company, which made me feel kind of bad. I didn't want to be the reason for any of that. I told Ray about the fight and how Gabriel was angry about him leaving. Ray looked concerned and said he thought Gabriel might have misunderstood the situation. That made me nervous. Was this all a big misunderstanding? Things got interesting when Gabriel showed up at the party unexpectedly. He looked tense and was avoiding eye contact with me, which was super awkward. I tried to approach him, but he just brushed past me and joined a group of friends. Ray noticed the awkwardness, and I think he felt bad for me because he suggested we go grab drinks together. While we were at the bar, Ray revealed that he had heard some rumors about Gabriel's behavior at work. Apparently, some coworkers thought Gabriel was overreacting, which made me even more anxious. Gabriel eventually came to the bar too, and it was just so awkward. He stood close to me but didn't say a word. The atmosphere got really tense, like everyone was aware of the elephant in the room. Someone even joked about Gabriel and me being the couple of the night, which made everything worse. He shot a glare at me that made me look away so fast. I was just trying to survive the night without any more drama. After a while, Gabriel just left the party without saying goodbye, which was a relief, but also I had a feeling it wasn't over. Later that night, I got a series of texts from him that pretty much confirmed my fears. He accused me of talking to Ray behind his back and causing drama. I was so confused and defended myself, saying it was just a friendly chat. He insisted that I should have been more careful about my interactions, which felt like such a double standard. It's not like I was the one who started all this. Things escalated when he mentioned needing space to think. I didn't respond because I was just so over it at that point. A few days after all that, I got an invitation to a family gathering for a holiday. I hesitated to attend because I knew Gabriel would probably be there since we share some family ties. But my parents were super excited about it, so I didn't want to let them down. When I got there, I noticed Gabriel was present, but just kept to himself, avoiding me like crazy. Family members noticed the coldness between us and started asking questions, which I really didn't want to deal with. Eventually, Gabriel confronted me about my conversation with Ray in front of everyone. I tried to explain my side, but it just turned into a full-on argument. Family members attempted to mediate, which only made things more uncomfortable. It was like everyone knew we were fighting, and they were just making it worse by trying to help. The gathering ended with Gabriel storming off again, leaving everyone in an awkward silence. So yeah, that's where I'm at. This whole situation is just so messed up, and I don't know how to fix it. I can't believe we're fighting in front of family now. It's just so embarrassing and exhausting. Edit. I feel like I need to clarify a few things. Gabriel's been my boyfriend for almost a year, and we've spent a lot of time together, including family gatherings, so everyone knows him. My family loves him, which makes this even harder. I really don't want to lose him over this. Aita for breaking up with my girlfriend after she lied about her past and might be pregnant with another man's child. Aita for breaking up with my girlfriend after finding out she lied about her past and might be pregnant with another man's child. I am 25 years old and have been dating Abby for over a year. We live in the same small town she grew up in. I moved here 3 years ago. We have talked about our past relationships, and she dated someone, let's call them Jake, for 1 year in high school. After that, they were on again, off again, but the last time they slept together was a month before Abby and I started dating. When we started dating, we both agreed to block or remove any exes or people we were seeing casually. Jake was one of those people. Abby has a friend named Anna. Abby says, after she was informed by a mutual friend that one day, about 2 months ago, Anna mentioned that Jake was leaving the country to live with family in Germany. Anna asked if Abby would like to see him. Abby said, "It's sad he is leaving, and it would be nice to see him, but I wouldn't want to jeopardize my relationship." A couple of weeks pass, and Abby comes over for a girls' night with Anna and some of her other girlfriends. At some point, there is a knock on the door. Anna strikes a huge grin and says, "I wonder who that is." It was Jake. He stayed for about 20 minutes of small talk and asked if they wanted to go to his going-away party. Abby said no. The other girls said yes. Another month passes, and no one has told me about the small run-in with Jake. I go to visit one of our couple friends, Brian and Jackie. Brian tells me not to tell anyone, but informs me about the visit from Jake. Brian also mentions that Abby had slept with someone in our friend group named Todd before we had ever started dating, and that Abby had told her friends not to tell me. I had wondered how Todd had joined the friend group before. The group is made up of people who knew each other from high school, and he did not attend with them. I had expressed this to Abby, and I even said multiple times that he may be gay and involved with a friend of ours, since he seems to always come to events with a gay male friend we have. I don't understand why she would hide this from me. When I found this all out, it felt jarring. We have always made an effort to be honest with each other. Honesty is important to me, and I think without Brian, I never would have found these two things out. I told her that I wanted to break up. She is begging me to stay. She said she is going to cut off Anna entirely and that she won't keep things like this from me anymore. I don't know how to feel. What do you think I should do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It sounds to me like the 20-minute visit from Jake wasn't entirely her fault, and she did the right thing by turning down the invite to the going-away party. I am honestly surprised that this is a far bigger deal to you than the situation with Todd. I think you two should just break up. You obviously feel disturbed by this, and you will probably keep her tied to a whipping post over it, only to eventually break up anyway, because even after that, you won't overcome your feelings of betrayal. With that said, I honestly find the rules you two made for each other to be drastic, and they reek of potential insecurities and jealousy. My husband and I do just fine in life without having our exes blocked or treated like complete enemies when they are not. Most we haven't seen in years anyway, but we trust each other and are transparent enough that the blocking and acting like these parts of our history never existed seems highly unnecessary. We also don't feel the need to meddle in each other's past intimacy lives when we feel our life together started when we got together and have a whole blank slate to fill with our own memories. But that's just us. You and she made agreements that were broken, and you have every right to have relationships your way. So I wish you luck in finding a girlfriend who is honest, transparent, and can be trusted, who is compatible with you and the rules you want, because clearly she wasn't it. Comment 2. She failed the wife test, man. This is why you date, to assess if the other person meets or doesn't meet your standards. I hope lying and breaking boundaries do not meet your standards. Now, for the update, I'm back with another update about my ex and the crazy situation. I had been living my life, trying to figure things out, and then a week after we broke up, she texts me asking if we could meet up to talk. I was like, here we go again. We decided to meet at this diner in our small town, the place where we used to go on dates. I thought maybe it would help us understand things better, but honestly, I was just ready for anything. When Abby arrived, she looked super anxious. I could tell right away this was going to be a ride. She suggested we talk about what happened, and I was like, okay, let's do this. So she starts off by admitting that she'd been in contact with her ex since we broke up. She insisted it was just to say goodbye. I was sitting there, listening, but my mind was racing back to when Anna, Abby's friend, had mentioned how sad Abby was about Jake leaving. It just didn't add up. Then, out of nowhere, Abby drops this huge surprise. She says she has feelings for Jake. Like, what? I mean, I knew things were messy between us, but this? I asked her about Todd, and I was just looking for confirmation about what I'd heard before. I needed to know if what I heard was true. She confirmed that she had a brief fling with him, but insisted it was before we started dating. I don't know why, but I felt like I had to believe her. We left the diner feeling all kinds of unresolved. She asked if we could stay friends, and I was just like, sure. A few days later, I ran into Todd at the grocery store. Honestly, I wasn't in the mood for any social interaction, but here we were. He casually mentioned that he heard Abby had been upset and that she reached out to him. I was thinking, of course she did. Later that week, I went to a birthday party for a mutual friend. Guess who shows up with a friend and Todd? Yeah, you guessed it, Abby. The vibe was super awkward. I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was looking at me, waiting for my reaction. I tried to engage with our friends, but my mind was on Abby and Todd. They were laughing together, and it seemed way too friendly. At one point, Anna came up to me and asked if I was okay. I just said I was fine and walked away. Toward the end of the night, Abby pulled me aside to talk. She apologized for how things have been and asked if we could start fresh. I just nodded and left. The next day, I got a message from Abby saying we needed to talk again. I was like, can we not? But I agreed anyway. We met at a coffee shop, and that's when Abby dropped another huge surprise on me. She might be pregnant. My heart just dropped. She confessed she wasn't sure if it was Todd's or mine. The room felt heavy, let me tell you. I asked her how this could happen, just as we were trying to figure things out. She insisted she didn't plan for this and was just as confused about her next steps. We left the coffee shop in silence, knowing our relationship was at a critical point. A few days later, I tried to reach out to Abby for answers, but she didn't respond. I ran into Anna at a local event, and she seemed super evasive when I asked about Abby. Finally, I got a message from Abby saying she needed space. And here we are now. I'm just trying to keep my sanity, you know? Edit. It's been a week since Abby asked for space. Initially, I respected her request, but I couldn't shake off the confusion and concern. I reached out to another friend from Anna and Abby's circle, trying to get some clarity. Surprisingly, I learned that Abby had confided in them and mentioned the possibility of her being pregnant with Jake's child. This revelation left me more puzzled than ever. Later on, I received a text from Abby saying she took a pregnancy test and it came back negative. She apologized for the chaos and suggested we meet to talk things through. Aita for confronting my husband about his secret 2-year relationship and his ongoing contact with his ex. Aita for confronting my husband about his secret relationship with his ex-girlfriend. I recently married a man who is divorced with 2 kids. We had a whirlwind romance and were very much in love. When I was 35, I unexpectedly lost my boyfriend to unalived, and I found him. After that, I spent 6 years being single, healing, and processing everything I needed to. I am a very strong person. I make it very clear that I hate secrets and surprises, and I really value honesty and loyalty. I have had enough surprises for a lifetime. I am an open book. What you see is what you get. I have gone above and beyond supporting his new business and his kids. I thought I had found my person. When I met my now husband, we obviously had the conversation about our pasts, and I was very transparent about my life and experiences and very clear about my boundaries. Given I was so open, I of course expected the same in return. I was not expecting explicit details. However, when I simply asked when his last relationship ended, he told me that he had a COVID fling that lasted just a few months, and that was never going to go anywhere. I didn't think more of it. Fast forward to our wedding, and a few months following, I had caught him telling a few other white lies and omissions up to this point. However, shockingly, one of my staff members asked me who the blonde was that he had dated. I replied that he hadn't really dated anyone since his ex-wife. She looked perplexed and then suggested that I have a look on his social media. I don't use Instagram or Facebook. Surprise! I was absolutely floored by what I was seeing. Not only was this a person I knew almost nothing about, but they had also not long been broken up before we had gotten together, and it had lasted around 2 years, according to the dates of his posts. I had had problems with his son accepting me when we first met. In hindsight, the poor kid had seen his dad go from one woman to another. There were approximately 40 love-bombing posts about how madly in love they were and how absolutely amazing she was. The posts were the ones that people really should keep to themselves. They were extremely cringe. I was upset for several reasons. His lack of transparency and honesty, the fact I had really opened up about my grief and loss of love, but he couldn't give me the same regard and respect, and probably the most hurtful, I had been pretty disappointed with his lack of effort over Christmas, on our wedding day, and my birthday, but I read that he was pretty much celebrating when she took a breath. Cumulatively, it was all extremely confronting to read and see, especially 3 months into our marriage. Moreover, he said that he thought he had deleted all of them, and mentioned there were a lot more than the 40 posts I read. He has since deleted his posts, but I have not looked at a thing since then. I had an infection 19 fling, and it certainly was not like that. I am absolutely aware everyone has a past, so do I. I just do not see the need to lie about it. It's a really bad foundation for a healthy relationship. It's not only the lying that has been hurtful, but the posts have given me the ick. He said he made the posts because she liked them, and he did it to somewhat gloat to his ex-wife and workmates. So the apparent fakeness is just weird to me also. I think he absolutely did love her, but he just flatly lied or is lying to me. He says he is really embarrassed about the posts, but I didn't think he'd be the type of person to post stuff like that in the first place. Either way, I am not impressed on several counts, and I am unsure I am going to be able to get past the dishonesty and lack of respect. I would love some words of wisdom. If anyone has any, they can offer, even if it's possible to move on. He says I need to let it go and move forward. Easier for him, but I am stuck in a loop. Honestly, if I had seen the posts before going on our first date, I would not have even gone on that first date with him and had a beer. But here I am. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Oh boy, original poster. For a second, let's set aside the most recent ex he was posting about. You laid all your cards on the table, and he did not, so he deceived you. I'm sure he did it because he didn't want to lose you. But he doesn't get to decide your limits. He took away your agency to make an informed decision as to whether or not you wanted to move forward once you had all the information. To me, this has become a trust issue. If he could so easily deceive you about this, then what else has he been lying about? Also, he could end up covering things up in the future. If there is no trust, then there is no relationship. Trust is the very foundation of any relationship. Once broken, it can take years to earn it back, if ever. Comment 2. I think it's absolutely fair to be reevaluating your relationship. You essentially learned that he isn't the man you thought he was, and everything you've learned about him and his past has made you see your relationship in a different light. I think it would be fair to ask him for some space to figure out how or if you want to move forward. I'd suggest individual therapy for yourself if you think it would help process things, and couples therapy if you decide to stay. Now, for the update. I've been married to my husband for 8 months, but a week ago, I found out something that has me questioning everything. He has 2 kids with another woman, and their relationship lasted 2 years. We were always honest with each other. I thought our relationship was built on honesty. He told me about his fling during infection 19. I thought that was the worst he had. I was wrong. A week ago, I found out that he had a 2-year relationship with her. Pictures, posts, everything. I confronted him about it, but he deleted everything and thought we could just move on. Yeah, no, it's not that easy. I'm still hurting, and I don't know if I can trust him. Anyway, a week has passed since the confrontation, and I'm still trying to deal with the tension in our home. He hasn't said much to me since. We had planned a trip to visit his parents over the weekend. I was unsure about going, but he said it was important for us to go. The drive to his parents' house felt long and awkward. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease in my stomach. When we arrived at his childhood home, it was decorated for a family gathering. His parents and siblings were there to welcome us. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, but I felt like an outsider. My husband seemed really distant during dinner with his family. They all joked and laughed, but he just sat there, pushing food around on his plate. His younger brother made a joke about relationships, and my husband went quiet. It was super awkward. They discussed how my husband had always been the favorite child. It made him uncomfortable, and I could tell. His mom brought up the blonde woman, asking about her and how they had a special bond. He laughed it off, but I noticed a flicker of discomfort in his eyes. After dinner, the family played board games, but my husband was glued to his phone. I excused myself to the kitchen to help clean up. While washing dishes, I overheard my husband's mom talking about the ex-girlfriend. She mentioned how she always hoped they would get back together. I couldn't believe it. Later that night, while everyone was settling in, I found my husband in his childhood bedroom. I confronted him about his mom's comments and the way he was acting. He insisted it was all in the past. I pressed him for more info, and he finally admitted that the blonde woman had been invited to the family gathering, but declined. He suggested we should just enjoy our time with family instead of dwelling on the past. The next morning, the family planned a hike. I was unsure, but agreed to go. During the hike, I overheard my husband and his brother talking about their childhood antics. The brother casually mentioned how they used to sneak out to meet their girlfriends, including the blonde woman. After the hike, the family gathered for lunch, and the atmosphere felt tense. My husband got a message during lunch and quickly left the table. I followed him outside, where I found him on the phone, looking anxious. He abruptly ended the call and seemed flustered when I asked who he was talking to. He claimed it was just work, but I could see he was lying. The family invited us to a barbecue later that evening. During the barbecue, I noticed my husband was distracted, frequently checking his phone. At one point, he stepped away to take another call, raising my suspicions. After the barbecue, I confronted him again about the calls and the ex-girlfriend. He finally snapped, revealing he was in touch with the blonde woman about their kids' school events. I was taken aback. He said he didn't want to involve the kids in this mess. I don't know what to do. Edit. I regret not asking him to communicate through a co-parenting app. He is still in contact with her, and the kids are aware of her presence in their lives. It upsets me. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.